So welcome to episode 7. We have a special collab today. We have Ian here from Good Men Helping Good Men. Cross between Podstache. So welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, brother. How are you, Jay?
Good, man. Good. I'm really excited for this one. Obviously, we're both, men who are very interested in mental health and helping people develop themselves, and even just opening up the communication lines about some of the struggles that men do have and some ways and techniques to overcome that. So do you just want to tell us a little bit about your business, of what you've got going on at the moment?
Yeah, a really good point that you make. It's about people talking, really. I think one of the biggest things is a lot of men keep the stuff inside. I think one of the biggest lies that men get told is strength is keeping silent, and it's actually the opposite. We need to release our emotions, or things can be unhealthy when we keep it in. So, yeah, there's a movement called Good Men Helping Good Men. We're just about to launch our app, and it stems from kind of my own problems, my own perceived relatively successful, achieving a little bit of financial security, not like financial freedom, but being okay.
Yep.
Nice car, nice missus, this, that, and the other. But I had that, and the joy was evaporating in front of me. I was like, I achieved the thing, and then it's gone, and I was feeling empty inside. And it was like, people talk about mental health and being about suicidality and stuff like that, but it's not just that. That's the extremes. There's a lot of men who are just lost. And I felt in amongst this thing, I felt a bit lost. I felt a bit like in vanilla land. And I was like, people will look at me and think, oh, fucking hell, he's successful, he's happy. No, I wasn't successful in life, because I was asking myself the questions, is this it? I remember sitting at Coogee Beach, looking out at Coogee Beach going, and I was like managing director of a logistics business, doing well, living in the place of my dreams where I always wanted to live, because from fucking pissing down rain in Liverpool. And I looked out and I was saying, is this it? There's got to be more to life than this. So my own struggles, my cousin committed suicide when I was younger. Unfortunately, same town as me, really young age. And looking back, I can understand why. That, combined with all my own problems, combined with starting to help men,
Yep.
I started realising there's 5 pillars to fulfillment. People look at it and people think, people invest a lot more time in looking at business KPIs and driving business performance, but we have human KPIs.
We do.
And we fucking forget about them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We talk about health and fitness, internal work, love and relationships, social connections, and work and life flow. So all of those combined are interconnected. If one of them drops, it usually seeps into the others. So yeah, this movement. It's about simplifying the human KPI through the 5 pillars, and then helping men connect through a common language. So through the app that we've developed is going to help men kind of connect to other men in their areas, talk this, help each other grow, but also help them track their improvements and understand what the fuck is going on inside. So that's a bit of a synopsis of what we're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, amazing. And it's interesting that you spoke about where you kind of come from and the direction and the path. And I think in life we all have different seasons. And as you said, you can literally have everything sometimes. You might have financial stability, you might have the relationship, you might have your health, but you can have all these things in life. But that doesn't necessarily mean happiness, success, or like a positive mental health mindset. And it's one of those things where it's really hard, because in life there's so many things now which we can compare to with social media, other people, how people are living their lives, and sometimes that reflects back on us of how well we should be doing or where we should be at in life. And I think life is just an absolute roller coaster, that no matter what you have or what experience you go through, everything is always going to be personal to you. And the challenges that we do go through, especially as men, and how our brains do function, and somewhat probably quite differently to women, I think we're quite held back in our ability to communicate with people, to have the specific strategies and techniques in place to help us to actually overcome those challenges or make light of our own emotions. And that's really cool that now you've got this framework in place that in the app that's going to help to firstly make men understand maybe one of those pillars which is falling, and understand the factors that's contributing towards why they may be feeling the way they are. And as you said, it's like a KPI, and we can go so unrecognized with our own faults sometimes, and having something in front of us to, you know, make us aware of that is hugely important. So yeah, just tell us kind of how you look to help men overcome or make them aware of their challenges.
Okay, well, first of all, what you described is spot on. You were basically discussing the duality of life. You know, life is a roller coaster, as you said. It's coming. It's going to be. There's night. There's day. It's gonna. At any given point, you've got some kind of pain that you're going to be dealing with. Usually, in that pain is the lesson. And what we've got to understand is when it's coming at us, kind of, if you can start thinking, what's this lesson? Changing that mentality. This thing's coming at me now. I don't have to let this now consume me and be this pain, you know, because you look at it and you go, oh, fucking anxiety, shit, you know, fear. Well, okay, it's there, it's fear, it's it now, I've captured it. I don't have to let that consume me. It is what it is. What can I learn from this? And it's almost detaching from the thing. I think the key to success is trying to be as calm and as peaceful as you can be at all times, no matter what throws at you. So then you can deal with it better, because you're not emotionally in panic stations, fight or flight. And how I help men is two things. It's understand that actually a lot of what happens you can be accountable to you. Yeah. You know, a lot of it's how you are carrying out your life. What decisions are you making? And the biggest thing for men that I've found, so across the 5 pillars of fulfillment, I've described them before, the 2 key ones which are causing the most suffering that we've found so far of the hundreds of men we've worked with is love and relationships pillar and social connections. So in the love and relationships, we ask 4 questions. And the first 2 questions are, do you understand your non-negotiable values within your relationship? What means something to you in your, you know, what means something to you that you're not going to dial back on? Because most men go, oh, I think I know what that is. Oh, yeah, maybe. The second question is, have you had that discussion with your partner? Now, 95% of men that I've worked with are saying, not really. So they're saying about 80% here are no or unsure. 95 haven't had the discussion. So they're coming into relationships and they haven't set their boundaries. They don't understand themselves. They don't talk to their partner about it. Then unmet expectations build, resentment builds. They start fighting and nobody's even fucking spoken about it.
Yep.
And they're at fault, like I was until I was 46. when I went into this relationship, I did this exercise. I was like, fucking hell, game changer, because I set my boundaries early. People don't even understand what their boundaries are, and they're getting past left, right, and centre. So that's a key one. And the other one is social connections, because a lot of men, as we get older, we don't have that brotherhood around us, and you know, we're focusing on work and we're doing our thing, and we drift off from having those deep conversations with our friends, and then time goes by, and then we hang on a minute, we haven't got this friendship network like we did when we were in school, for example. Some men do, but a large majority don't. So then when they're going through the crap, they've got no one to share it to. And as men, we don't need sometimes deep counsel work. I'm sure there's times when we all do, but a lot of time it's just sharing to say, yep, mate, I'm hurting. Yeah, I'm going through it. I'm going through a few things at the moment. I've touched on a couple of things with you, a few business, so then it's not good. What am I doing about it? I'm sharing to a couple of people who are thinking, going, fucking, okay, I'm not letting it sit. I'm doing breath work. I'm doing things that can help me regulate my nervous system and look at it and not let that be the thing. But in the past, I didn't. I would sit there, not speak about it. Plus, I wasn't in the right relationship. So that moment I was discussing about earlier when I was sitting out at Coogee Beach, that's exactly what was going on inside. Yeah. And I didn't understand my own human KPI. So I'm sitting there lost going, fuck, everything feels like it's turning in. I don't even realise I've set myself up for failure in a relationship that's on me, but I'm blaming her. Yep. And I'm not talking to anybody because I haven't really got the depth of relationship with anyone to share to, and I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But that's on me again, because I am the author of my story, so I should, just like in business, I'd be being strategic for the best of my business, which I was, and my business is doing great, but I wasn't doing strategic for Ian Williams. I wasn't trying to develop a better connection with people. So that's why I try and make things simple through my experience and make people aware there's simple tricks that you can do to improve your situation.
And what you're saying, I think, comes from a hell of a lot of experience. You have to go through different life lessons to learn so much about yourself, your own faults, your own attachment theories, how you operate in love and relationships. And as you progress through that story and that journey, it does reach a point where you have to remove victim mindset
100%.
and you have to start taking accountability for your own actions, your own behaviors, and the only things that you need to really improve about yourself. And I think that is a big part of, progressing forward with your own mental health, with your own love and relationships, with your, development of understanding yourself. Because if you don't have that self-awareness, it's really hard to actually fix some of those things. And that's where I think a lot of us men do go wrong. And for me, myself, as you kind of said, one of the biggest pillars is love and relationships. And I've said to so many people throughout my life, I'm like, when it comes to us as men, we're sometimes seen to be these hardened people where, if a girl leaves us or a relationship breaks up, we're just supposed to get on with it, find the next girl, don't worry about it. It's just, part of what happens. But for me, it's been the one biggest thing that has had the hugest effect on not only a decline in my mental health, but also the opposite of switching into my masculinity, my ability to have a significant discipline within myself of a point where I have this unnatural ability to tap into a mindset of not settling into that victim mindset and being like, righto, well, yes, she left me, but ultimately I need to do something about this, and I'm going to find a way to improve myself, to understand my attachment theory, to tap into every possibility that I can to become a better person for that future relationship. Because in life, it's a huge thing. If you can find the right person to be with that is going to help support you, help build your relationship, your career, you as a person, supports you in every way possible, it's you're going to have a hell of a lot better of a life. And that's a huge thing. And, you want to be able to openly communicate. You want to be able to, understand each other. And that's a huge thing. And like you say, for me, I know that when I've been through these breakups and these downfalls, I'm like always trying to reflect on what I can improve, where I went wrong. And they have had such an effect on me that, yeah, I spent however long as an ambo going to suicides, picking up limbs off train tracks, all these crazy things that people look at and go, that must fuck you up so significantly mentally, post-traumatic stress. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay, there is an element of that, but also that's not necessarily that personal to me. I'm so significantly task-focused that I've got a job to do there and then. But when you reflect it back onto my personal relationships, when I've had breakups, I'm like, that has affected me 10 times more than going to a child in cardiac arrest at a school. And people probably just blow their mind at that. But I'm like, yeah, I've gone 3 days without sleep, and like we've kind of discussed before, I think it's a big thing to talk about is I consider myself quite a resilient person. And I do believe that I've built a lot of self-awareness through my experiences. But when I go through these phases of being sleep deprived, going absolutely chaotic with my own mind, thinking absolutely everything is the worst and having my ego taken a hit, all these things coming into effect where I lose all my self-worth. And it's just like, wow, the impact that can have on you can be so great, but sometimes we just don't speak about it, or other people can't relate to it if they haven't been through it. So yeah, relationships is huge, isn't it? And
yeah, thanks for sharing. First of all, really powerful stuff you've just shared there, and a really common one. And what you described there, firstly, the traumas from your work, of dead bodies and stuff like that. I can understand the difference because I know people in those industries, and they kind of switch off and they have this way of kind of making it a technicality in here, but when you love somebody, you're connected deeply, and it can feel like a death.
That's exactly right.
It can feel like a death. You grieve, so I can totally understand that, and I think it's powerful for you to share that for other men, because it's like men are taught to kind of suck it up. Well, I'm grieving. It's not as easy as to suck it up. I remember the first girlfriend I had when I was young, when I was a kid. I broke up with her, but I kind of wanted her back, and it didn't happen, and I found out stuff. She went with somebody else, this, that, and the other. That broke my heart. I was a young kid. I didn't talk to anybody about it, but I carried that for years. That affected me deeply. Deeply. Nobody knew, but I was suffering inside big time. I was partying. I was trying to run away from myself, going 2-day benders, this, that, and the other. I was fucking giving it. I was the big spuds. I would try and pull girls. This, that. I didn't give a shit about the other girls. I was just running away.
Yeah.
And it was hurting, and hurt people. And,
exactly right.
And I think that's why it's important for men to stand up and say, it's okay, you're fucking grieving. If everybody splits up, everybody falls out of love, things happen, we're perfectly imperfect, shit goes down, it's okay to share.
And that's why there's so many songs about it, There's so many songs about love, relationships, hurt. And because, if you get to go through it, it's almost like you're lucky you get to go through that, because maybe a lot of people don't get to experience that level of love.
No, 100%. No, so I think it's really good that you're speaking about that. And again, from the love and relationships pillar of what we talk about, it's such a deep-rooted element of the human fulfillment, because that's your partner, potential life partner. You're spending every single free moment with them. You go to work, you've had a shitty day at work, you come back through the doors, you need peace. You've been grafting all day, man. You've been out there doing whatever you do, and you're out of work. You don't want to come back and feel like you're coming home to a prison. There's a prison warden. Where have you been? What have you? That's not what you need, and vice versa. The woman doesn't need that from a man. It's not. But it's so important to choose wisely and take accountability yourself and learn your lessons. When something goes wrong, what the fuck did I do there? Have I been the best version of myself? Have I got a big lesson here? And usually there'll be a lesson from both sides. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Nothing's perfect.
Exactly right.
But you've got to be, as a man, you've got to be prepared to look at yourself. Whatever goes down, what have I done here? What's this teaching me? And have I got some growth to do here? Because none of us are perfect. And there's a lesson in everything, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I just want to touch on, from your experience and what you've been through, for all those people out there that are listening and, going through some kind of experience, whether it's jobless, whether it's trauma, whether it's their health, whether it's whatever it may be, what are some of your kind of top tips and recommendations how to get through those difficult times?
Number one would be share. Have someone close to you. If you find someone, if you're a man and you're isolated, there's men's groups everywhere. You only have to look online now. ChatGPT, fucking whatever you need to do. Is there any local men's circles? It's getting more prevalent. People are now aware of it. We're talking about it. More men are stepping into their courage and sharing vulnerability. Vulnerability is a superpower. It is the definition of courage, because you're prepared to drop your mask and talk. Other people will then talk to you. Usually that person's waiting for you to see someone else drop the mask, and then the other person. So find those circles, talk, share. You'll be amazed at how much that will be like, oh, thank fuck, it's not just me. And that in itself is a huge relief. And then there's a lot of good stuff. I think for me, what I've always had is my safety net. I think there's got to be a safety net for everybody. Health and fitness has always been a safety net for me, because it's a controllable. I can always get out of bed, get up a little bit early and do something. I can go to the gym, I can go for a walk, I can go for whatever it is for you. But that is something that I can win in my day. So fucking find something that works for you. Now, health and fitness for me is that. But I think also when you're going through stuff, and a lot of men need to, it's growing awareness, but more men need to be aware of it, internal work. When I talk about internal work, it's breath work, it's meditation, it's quiet time, just fucking pausing, closing the fucking mind off. Sauna, ice bath, and fucking just being with yourself. Only when you're with yourself, eventually the thoughts will drop after a period of time. You'll get to know yourself. What most people do is they distract from themselves. They run away from themselves. They never understand themselves. So therefore, they're running this permanent battle. They're just shadows just there, and they're just fucking running because they don't want to sit, pause, and face themselves. And unfortunately, you have to do the inner work. Otherwise, you're just going to keep repeating the cycles. You can share to whoever you want. But what will happen, unless you want to pause, reflect, look at yourself in the mirror, do some deep work, you're just going to, what will happen is you can share to your mate, you'll feel better, you'll get out of that relationship, you go into the next one, the same cycle will repeat, you'll go again. You've got to do the fucking work, be prepared to be accountable, and do the work.
Yeah, and you see that far too often, don't you? Like, I've seen it in myself, I've seen it in other relationships where, you know, the cycle is just on repeat. And until that changes, nothing changes until it changes, you know? So,
to give you an example, I'm 48 years of age now. My beautiful missus now, Katya. I set myself up for success, as I said before, by having the boundaries discussion. But I'd gone through, including a marriage of 4 years, which I never should have went into because I didn't understand myself. I'd gone through these 3, 4, 5 year cycles of relationships, you know, since I was 20, all the way through. And I kept popping out the other side. I'm going, fucking, I'm blaming everything and everybody else. And it wasn't until I paused, I said, what am I doing here? And I asked myself those questions. I haven't really understood exactly what I want out of the relationship. And I haven't told the other person. I haven't held the boundaries. Fucking light bulb, dickhead. You know what I mean? And I accepted the accountability, then I stepped in. Now I'm in a much better place. And it can be that simple sometimes, guys, to just take a different step and take accountability and hold your boundaries. And those holding the boundaries sometimes means you have to go out of a relationship because you will suffer. If your boundaries are here and you say, this is mine, but you keep moving, you're the one who's going to suffer because that's your authentic self. That's what means something to you. And a lot of people say, yeah, I talk to her, she doesn't give a shit. Does it mean that much to you? Are you bending against what really makes you happy? And if so, then sometimes it might mean that, because what will happen is you'll suffer too much and you'll get burnt out, stressed, sends people towards that suicide step sometimes because, you know, when you go against your true authentic self, that's where it can go. So I say just listen to yourself, hold your boundaries and be prepared to make a decision.
As a man that's been through multiple relationships, experiences, things that have fallen apart to a point now where you do have a partner that you're, you know, you've spoken very highly of and you speak about the boundaries and all those things. What are the conversations that you need to have at the start of a relationship to set the boundaries in place, to set yourself up for a greater level of success in that relationship?
Yeah, well, I explained this is me. This is how I live my life. Don't party anymore. I know a limit. I was still drinking a little bit, but not much. You know, a few pints, this, that, and the other. Not partying. You know, definitely don't want any drugs. No big weekend benders. I'm into my health and fitness. I'm starting to do a bit of inner work, and this is me. And I actually had to have the discussion with her quite early because she was coming out of a breakup. She was still partying a little bit and stuff. So I just said, look, I'm getting feelings here. I'm starting to really, you know, warm to you. I can see there's a deep connection here, but there's some things which are a little bit off-center for me, for who I am, and probably won't work, and that's okay. But it might not work for the relationship, so we may or may not need to either, before we take this any further, I just like to lay it on the table. I did it in a way with love and empathy and no judgment, because I've done that times 10. What she'd done, there's absolutely no judgment here, but this is what is a non-negotiable for me. And it was like, you know, I go to the gym. I like to have a nice regulated sleep pattern because my mind ticks over a lot. So I've got a nice sleep pattern which works for me. I get up early, I go to the gym, I meditate. So I just worked through everything, and I was kind of saying, this is where it is. And there's a couple of things here I've identified that maybe may or may not work. And I'd rather just say, if it doesn't have to be 100% my way, can we find some kind of balance here between us? And what I thought was beautiful, because it comes with experience, and it comes with, she'd been through all of her same traumas and stuff as well, and she was on a growth journey. So she said, actually, some of those things you described, from my perspective, they're behavioural, they're not like integral to my values. And actually, you're right, I'd probably preferred that side as well. So let's see if we can meet somewhere. And we just balanced a few things out. We said, okay, that's bit. And we weren't like 100%, but we're here. So we were there before, we now brought it here. That works. And now that we've had that discussion, we actually can touch back there. So every couple of months, you know, we might say, how are you feeling? and we know we've got our baseline of stuff. How you feel, how are these things going for you? So I think it's important to regularly touch in, and that can be as structured or as unstructured as you like, you know.
Yep.
I've actually sat there one point on the whiteboard with them. I'm not saying everybody should do that, about, hey, you know, let's talk around these things that we've spoken about and what's working and what's not. I haven't done that for a while, but I think it's nice to touch in, because once you set that baseline, it sets you up for success moving forward. But it's important. It does take two to tango. Yep. Because you'll get a lot of men going, oh, if I said that to my missus, she'd go through the roof, for example.
Yep.
Well, maybe you didn't set yourself up for success at the beginning, and maybe what you're telling me, there might be some boundaries that got crossed every single day that you haven't communicated. You are suffering in silence, and that is not good for you.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the biggest things. Communication is absolute key, isn't it? And, you know, you do see it so many times, like where we're just terrible at communication. And I know myself, I've been through so many phases where, you know, I don't want to communicate things because I'm worried about what they're going to say, how they're going to feel, how they're going to react, are they going to leave, you know, and whether that comes down from previous experiences or previous heartbreak relationships, but those do have an effect on you, and being able to communicate and learn to communicate is just so huge. And for us to be able to tap into that, you're spot on. And what I've avoided in the past is that what you've just described is, I know my missus, I'm not happy with this thing, but if I say this, she's going to blow up. I'll leave it. I like, it's like, I know once I open this door, I've got to walk through the pain park to get to the other side where there's a nice view. Yep. I can't be asked to walk through the pain park. It's okay, I'll stay here for a bit. But it's fucking so much better over there. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you hold off, and usually what happens is it takes you to your breaking point. Now, the only thing I would recommend here is, at some point you got to walk through the pain park in your life if you want to excel and you want to grow, whether it's in a relationship or anything in business. You've got to go through the pain park to get to the other side. With a communication thing, I think it's important to make sure you meet that person and try not to ignite their ego. We all have egos, and I always say, if you really understand your partner or whatever, use your emotional intelligence to keep I say, like, the ego is like a sleeping giant, keep it asleep and just sneak past. And the key is to sneak past each other's egos and have a conversation out of, like, love and empathy. So you can, different things, like for my missus, I know if I come in and I look her in the eye and I give her a cuddle and say, look, I really love you, and I talk to her calmly, I say, there's a couple of things I would like to talk about, and you know, if you can just hear me out, obviously making sure I don't want to just come in when there's something heightened going on. I'll maybe catch it, it's a calm moment, something that's been playing in my mind, and I could sit down with her and I'll lead in with absolute love, tell her how much I love her, there's something I want to discuss, and give her a nice cuddle, look her in the eyes, and a soft, she knows I'm coming from a good place, and I'll call myself out first, and I'll say, hey, I've done these things and I really want to hold myself accountable, and I want to improve, and I just wonder if I can share a couple of things from your side. That helps. That keeps her ego stays asleep. That means she doesn't raise up here, so mine doesn't raise, and then that allows us to have a conversation about the thing. So what we try and do is we get the problem, we put it above the relationship, and then we both look at it to try and solve the solution, try and solve the problem, rather than, what usually happens is people will talk, and they'll talk at the point when emotion, because then they're like, I can't hold this in anymore. You're shit. Yeah. And then what happens is people just pass poison to each other. That's exactly
and they're just poisoning each other. And then there's only so many times that the relationship can take that passing poison before the whole relationship is poisoned and it breaks.
And I've been there myself, and it comes down to a huge element of ego, not being wrong, and then defensiveness.
100%.
And I've gotten a bit better, but I still do it. And I'll say, listen up here, I'm going to be defensive in the next 5 minutes, but I'm going to come back to you in half an hour later, and I'll actually calm down and have a real discussion. But for the moment, I'm going to be defensive as fuck. And I probably don't mean what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it. But it's just learning to understand your own ways, like, and just working to really try and improve those things.
Oh, it's hard. If you get in, I'll still do it today, if there's an emotional point in a conversation and something triggers you, sometimes you just can't help, and it comes out and you're like, bah. Now, the quicker you catch it, the better. As I say, we're not perfect. If I do that, which fucking human, it'll happen now and again, you know, I try and catch it as quick as I can. I go, fuck. The minute I raise my voice, I'm like, fuck. Because I don't want to be that person. And I don't want to raise my voice at anybody, never mind the person who I love most in the world. But it happens now and again. When it does, I fucking bolt. I'm like, give us a minute. I'll go out. For me, I'll just calm, breathe. And then when I come back to the conversation, I do that thing. I try and lead in with love, with calm. I look her softly in the eyes. I try and cuddle her. There's been a couple of occasions where she's not ready. She's in that emotional loop. I have to give space. My key thing is just try and not talk in emotion and understand your partner and understand what language is going to work with your partner to keep the ego asleep. That's the key thing. And when, as you say, when you're ready to blow, you know, one of them things with, if you're already saying that out loud, where you're saying, I am now going to do this and I'll come back. Maybe the next time you say, I'm going to do this, actually you bolt out the door and you give yourself that time.
Maybe not now.
Yeah, you give yourself that time. Don't be wrong, I do exactly the same.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to give ourselves that breather to come back and then try that approach.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. All the advice you've given has been amazing. And, you know, I want to get a little bit of insight as well when it comes to personal development and being a masculine man. What are some ways that guys out there can really work on themselves to become that grounded man?
Yeah, it's funny when you say a masculine man. I think, you know, we all have masculine and feminine energies within us. And I think it's being quite balanced. I think, you know, men, you know, we've been battered. You know, we've been battered in the media. We've been battered left, right and centre. You might have had a bit of a bad rap recently. I think it's softening. I think people are starting to understand, hey, we're all human beings. You know, men and women should be working in symbiosis, and I'm feeling a lot more about that. But for me, it's just about, as a man, you should be focused on being a good human being first. What is the right thing to do? Am I causing harm to others with my actions? That's the first question I ask. Is my actions, are they of true and honest intent, and am I causing harm to others? If I know I'm purposely causing harm to others, that's not really being a good man. There's another way, really, you know. You know, if someone's been an ass to me and I'm going to be asked them, you're getting in that poison loop. It's probably not the best thing to do. You know what I mean? So what I do is I have a routine. I have a dialed-in routine that allows me to run around my human KPI. Health and fitness, non-negotiable in my life. You know, health and fitness, nutrition, dialed in. I eat whole foods. You know, it works for me. I fast. It means I have to cook less meals, 2 meals a day. Perfect. It gives me a bit of time back. And I do the things. I do a bit of internal work. I'm doing the things to make me grow. I read stuff to digest to help me grow. So, and I read, you know, one of the books is The Way of the Superior Man. Great book for any men who are leaning towards that masculine. And it's a really fantastic book by David Hedt. Now, by reading stuff, it cuts my experiences. You know, you usually have to live through your own experience. So by reading certain books, I'm growing quicker. But I'm doing the whole thing. I'm focusing on internal work, my relationships, my health and fitness, work and life, and I give them equal distribution. So I'm kind of going around all of them. But at the center is what I'm doing causing harm to people? And if it isn't, actually, that's the right thing to do. I'm walking a path, which is being a good man. Now, I also feel I like to protect those around me. I like to look after those around me. But yeah, I think, you know, I went to a Buddhist center the other day at the bottom of my road, just because I was helping a guy who's been going through some addiction problems, and I think he needs something deep in his life to help him because he's struggling with addiction. So I said, maybe go there. And he said, will you come with me? I said, yeah, okay. So I went with him, and at the very core of what they do, it's about being a good human being. And I think it's at the core of, you know, a lot of religions. So
yep.
It's just like a framework to being a good human being. That's all I say to people. Even the movement that I've got, at the core of it, it's being a good human being. That's all I say. Just ask yourself, are you being a good human being? And that will get you on the right path for growth. And things like, you know, help that you can provide people, or the help that myself and the app can provide people, will help you walk that path. But as long as you're not doing it, and, you know, and stepping over people on the way.
And that's a really big thing. I've found that some of the most, personal development that I've done for myself comes from firstly having purpose, and secondly trying to integrate with people in a very positive way, to the best of my ability. And I feel like what you give out, you get back. And since being in that state of positive vibrations, of giving out more to people, kind words, acknowledging things for people, whether they're improved in the gym, whether they've improved with, the way they communicate, whether they recognize people's names on first encounters and repeat that. It's all those small things that sometimes add up into a much bigger picture. And in being that kind person to other people, I find that always reflects back to yourself. And what you give is what you get. And I've found that when you're in a negative mindset and a negative state, that's what you're going to receive back. And it is absolutely huge. It's like this thing that, you sometimes, it's like pheromones, right? Pheromones, you can't see them, but they will give out certain emotions, feelings, and they will transfer and cross over and do all these funky, weird things. And it is so true about that, but positive energy. You give out that energy, people look at you differently, people interact with you differently, people will literally give you positive affirmations, all these kind of things. And it's just like, wow, it's this powerful movement that the kinder you are, you'll start to notice that.
Mate, you just described it, pheromones. I describe it like the radio station or the TV. You're plugging into that different frequency. When right round us here now is the different radio. So we can get the radio and dial in to a certain frequency and hear that. And I genuinely believe that too, that higher frequency or low frequency. So it's like if you're walking around and you're like, I'm walking down the street, me and you, bigger lump than me, but walking down and two big lumps walking down the street. If I'm walking down with a fucking angry face, people will avoid me at all costs. But if I'm like walking around, morning, the world's smiling back at me. Hey, how are you? And what does that do? Opens up opportunities in my life.
Everything.
Because people are fucking ready to engage with you. But if you walk around like, I know people in my life, won't mention their names, people back home in the UK, what he used to say, I believe it's I said, why are you so angry? Why do you always get into fights and stuff? I believe it's my duty to tell someone they're a knobhead that they're a knobhead. And I'm like, is that a positive way to live your life? Just fucking wanting to fight the world. And lo and behold, he doesn't necessarily enjoy his life. Whereas if you walk around, morning, how are you? What's going on? Well, we caught up in the sauna, and then now we're sitting here now. That's a nice little fucking thing that could have happened just because we were open to communicate. When I was younger, I didn't like to talk to people a lot, and I'm a bit closed off. So I think I'm a big believer in that too. I think it's a really good call out.
Yeah, definitely. Cool, man. Is there anything else you kind of want to touch on today?
No, mate. I mean, just maybe ask you a question there, because I know you've been through it a bit at the moment.
Yep.
You had a breakup, and you're very, very busy.
Yeah.
How have you managed to regulate yourself through this and keep that? How deeply has it affected you? And how have you managed to stay on track with everything that you do?
Yeah. So throughout my experiences, I've learnt to build a lot of resilience and find ways to manage situations that's always going to do the best for me. That means no alcohol, no partying, no girls, purely focusing on myself and diving into my purpose of what I want to do in life, the social networks that I hang around with that provide me with that positivity and the right kind of direction and information and advice. And then I guess the next thing is tapping into, like you say, your fitness, your health, your nutrition, and your goals. So setting aside small goals, small short-term goals, as well as those, longer-term goals. And for me, that come down to a case of, firstly, doing a bodybuilding competition. That put me back in alignment with my structure, my nutrition, my sleep, getting outside, going for walks to clear the head, gave me direction of purpose when I was at the gym to train with more intensity. And then the next thing, I guess, was my career, really tapping into, okay, where do I want to go with the whole photography scene? What do I need to do to get better at that. And I started connecting with, you know, even large scale photographers like Daniel Rapetti, who's, you know, world recognized within the scene. And now I've got some jobs with, and then just tapping into understanding, I guess, different techniques and ways of how I can improve my business. And then thirdly, it was self-reflection of going, you know, okay, what do I actually have in life? And it's like, I actually have everything in life that 99.9% of people would want. I have all my health. I have an amazing network of family, friends, community that are so incredibly supportive. I have a career where I get to travel around the world doing absolutely everything I love with photography that surrounds me around like-minded people, where I get to fulfill my passion that makes me, you know, tenfold the amount of money that, you know, I did as a paramedic, which took me 6 years to do a master's degree in. And, you know, I have literally absolutely every single pillar in life for happiness. And the fact that I lost that one, you know, biggest, well, most meaningful factor of love and relationships and connection, and just dropping that one thing out almost brought me to a point where I felt like I lost the rest. But then it was just reflecting on that going, you know what, I actually do have absolutely everything in life. So I had to really adapt my mindset to redirect my focus, fill up my own cup, and just drive into every other aspect. And since doing that, the amount of growth has been so significant, to a point now where I believe I am a completely different person. I am so much more grounded, calm, ability to, you know, manage my emotions in a manner where it's not reactive. And that also has put me in a position now where that amount of growth and tapping into that level of mindset has built my business, has built my own self-worth back, has built my confidence, you know. And I went through and had some success in the bodybuilding world, and now it's just like all these doors have opened so greatly that sometimes, as you say, you have different chapters, you have different lessons, and sometimes you have to use those lessons in a way to propel yourself into that next chapter that is ultimately going to have a greater level of success. It's a silver lining, and I've had a lot of silver linings in life, and sometimes the hardships that you go through build so much more resilience to a point that does build you up as a person to become, you know, successful in whatever you need to do. So
beautifully said, brother. I'm really glad you're on that next chapter. It's like that success chapter. Everything seems to be going in the right way for you right now. And I think some of the things you described there, you know, really powerful. And what I heard there loud and clear, which I believe in, is you've sat in gratitude. You've sat in gratitude for what you have, not looking at the suffering of what you lack. And that's what people should realize. When you sit in gratitude and you feel gratitude, no other emotion can exist in there, because it's a higher frequency. Gratitude, you know, anxiety, depression can't live in there. When you sit in it, there's no other emotion that can touch it. It's the highest frequency. And when you sit there, you cannot but feel it. So again, it's a strategy. You've took a strategy, knowingly or not knowingly or whatever. You've took a fucking dialed in strategy, and it's really, really worked for you. And I think that's important. The other thing I would say, a big, powerful guy like you who's doing well and all of these things going on, I know after talking to you, and I can see it in your eyes, the breakup with your ex-partner has really affected you. And that's also great that you're sharing that, and it's okay for men to share that. You know, because
I think more should.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah.
So there's a couple of key messages there that I think is really powerful for men to listen to. So thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Thank you. Just have one final message for us, you know, to anyone out there that's looking to improve their lives, their relationship, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I'll just leave it on. Look, I always say vulnerability is a superpower. Most human beings are wearing a mask. They are living in fear of showing their true identity. Once you drop your mask, the other person will usually go, oh, fucking hell, I can now drop my mask. Everybody's wearing a mask. So release the mask. don't be afraid to share, especially to your loved ones. That's what's going to help us kind of connect. You'll connect on a deeper level. You can help each other grow, and this is how we rise together.
That is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Ian.
Thank you, my brother.
For everyone out there listening, check out Ian from Good Health.
Good Men Helping Good Men. I know it's a bit of a mouthful. Good Men Helping Good Men.
But check them out on Instagram. They have a lot of big things coming this way that is just an absolutely amazing thing to help people out there to connect, to learn, and to grow, and to get through different challenges. So definitely check them out.
Thank you, my brother.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Cheers, mate.